Truth will set you free. Oh, maybe pain and sorrow, there's no tomorrow. Will take a hold of me, baby, baby, baby. All alone, baby, won't you come along and hold me? I ain't the seventh son, but I know where I'm from. Let's head on, head on down the highway. And maybe when we come back, by then you will have seen things my way. I don't want no skinny woman. A woman who's got no sense of style. I want a girl with a diamond ring on her finger. One who knows how to say nothing. I just can't find this girl nowhere. Until I do, I'ma stay all alone.
All right. Oh, how are you guys doing
Hello.
tonight? Listen to all that typing going on.
Rob's got that clickety clack going
He
on.
does. He
Wait, y'all
does.
can hear that?
I try to filter
Oh,
him
yeah.
out, but you know, it's like
Oh,
he's
my bad.
he hits those keys even harder if I put filters on him.
I'm sorry. I thought
You
y'all
ain't
never said
filtering.
anything before, so I thought you could fucking hear nothing.
Good decade.
But yeah, EA in the corner thinking everybody's just not paying attention to them now, and they decide, you know what, guys, you know what's a good idea? You know that $90 game
Indeed.
that you spent money on? Let's put some ads in that.
Yeah.
That's what we need. More ads. Oh my lord.
That's why we all play games and watch TV and things. Is
Oh
for the
yeah,
ads.
absolutely.
I mean,
I need more
yeah.
ads, man.
Yeah.
Like, well, what am I, Greg? What am I gonna do if I don't have my Scott toilet paper roll advertisement? What am I gonna do? How am I gonna,
Got to admit the little bear's kind of cute though. I mean,
right? How am I
yeah.
gonna know I have to go out and buy Scott rolls, huh?
Look, the only advertisement I've ever accepted in a video game was the cup noodles bit in Final Fantasy 14. That shit was actually hilarious.
Since we're
Wait a
on,
minute, there was a cup of noodle advertisement in Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, there's a cup noodle thing for Final Fantasy 14. Look it up. It's honestly hilarious. Put a big dumb hat on Noctis.
Hold on.
That's just the big cup noodle thing.
I gotta say though, since we were on the subject of toilet paper, the best toilet paper.
I want to hear the end of that story.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Come on. The best toilet paper I ever seen was in a truck stop, and it was John Wayne toilet paper. Talk about that, rough
John
and tough, and
Wayne
it don't take no shit from nobody.
Apparently, was it like half a ply, not even one ply, or two, like half a ply?
Do you really think that I
Sandpaper.
tried it? I mean,
I was about to say,
Seriously?
if it is don't take shit from nobody, I think toilet paper is supposed to take shit. Now, I would hope that my toilet paper would take my shit,
wow, Matt, you really had to take that deep, didn't you?
You're not kidding, Matt. They had a whole ass cup of noodle advert in Final Fantasy
Awesome.
Right?
15. It was 15, not 14.
Oh, all right, 14's the
MMO.
MMO. Sorry, 15.
They had.
There's so many of them I get confused. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna have to drop this in chat. It's that good. It's honestly that fucking. I have to put it in chat. That's fucking wild. That's absolutely wild.
I can accept. I can accept them if they're like that, but EA is not gonna do them like that.
Oh no, those things are gonna be 30-second long advertisements for shit you don't fucking need. And here's the thing. I think it was either you or your brother that told me that. But if you alt tab to another like window, the ad's gonna pause, and it's gonna resume when you get back.
There are some services that do that.
Some
even if you're,
of
like,
them
just watching things on your laptop. I could see them employing something similar. I can't say.
You're welcome, Shadow Riddlebox. And thank you very much, Harper. 5-stream streak, fantastic. You are awesome. And Harper Ring, everybody, is one of our cast members, so we don't make people watch a stream, but we are very glad to have people that decide to they like us that much. Maybe that's what it is.
Tune in for our fucking shenanigans.
And welcome in
It's
Infinity
definitely not our good
Core
looks.
and Shadow Riddlebox. I don't know. What are you talking about, man? Speak for yourself.
I am speaking for myself.
All right.
So
enough talk about toilet paper.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to start the episode. But guys, welcome into episode 52. I guess this quote unquote officially makes this our 1 year episode anniversary. Yeah, 52 episodes, although I think it's really like 70 something episodes at this point.
It is almost
of
80.
the update log. Yeah, almost 80 episodes of the update log. First of all, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for supporting us thus far, and hopefully in the future, as we continue to bring you up-to-date news on the gaming industry. And we've got some news for you tonight. But I'm Rob, your host. This is Greg and Matt, my co-hosts. Let's jump into it. We kind of jumped in a little prematurely, talking about EA and advertisements. And
it was shiny. Can't help it.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just wild. Like, who came up with that shit? Who literally sat down at their desk and said, you know what we need in our $90 quadruple A games? We need advertisements. We need ads. That's what we
Amen.
fucking need.
Leave it to EA. Now,
No-
what better
no-
way to spend your time during a loading screen than
Nope.
watching an advertisement?
No more microtransactions. You're just going to have to, we'll make
have to
somebody else
sit
pay the
through
bill,
ads.
but you have to sit through it.
Well, what do you
That-
mean no more microtransactions? They're going to keep those.
Oh,
They're
they're
going
gonna
to
double,
microtransactions and the advertisements.
they're gonna double down. They're gonna make sure that they're not leaving any money on the table. You
Unless
know,
you pay a
our
subscription fee to go ad free.
yep. And here's the thing. You know that base subscription fee that you are already probably paying? It's not gonna cut it anymore. That's gonna have ads too. If you don't want ads, you're gonna have to pay at least $5 more. Looking
That's
at you,
the most
Amazon.
part. I don't know exactly how they're going to implement these yet. I think right now they're just talking about it. I don't think they've made concrete plans yet.
No,
What, EA?
it's just talked about. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
talked about. Right? It's just they're spitballing. I think.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
they were also the ones who talked about charging each person per reload of a clip.
Welcome in, Frey Brand.
No, Freybrand, a little wrong. It's not let's do ads instead of microtransactions. It's let's do ads and
with
microtransactions. Courtesy of EA, they're talking about it.
I'm forever an optimist. I was just being
You
helpful.
know what? Actually, Matt, you sparked an idea, and hopefully EA is not listening. How about those
Even
ads
more.
lead to those microtransactions? Big brain.
Advertise. I think most games already advertise their microtransactions in the game itself.
But now you get 2 for the price of 1. You get them in the loading screen and in the end game.
Yeah,
They can't escape.
coming up to the big boss fight,
Yep.
and
Yeah, and an
cut
ad
screen
across the
ad runs.
I'd be so pissed.
Well, especially if
I'm
you're
just-
like right in the middle of the fight and you're like, just trying to do everything you can to stay alive, and boom, this right in the middle of that, suddenly you have an ad for whatever,
Cup of noodles.
cup of noodles.
My God. Okay, let's. We might touch on more on that later. Again, it's still something that's kind of in. Hopefully it's just talked about. Hopefully it's not in development, but we'll see.
Yeah,
That'll be a later episode.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
possibly. We'll see.
So, for those of you who have been kind of keeping tabs on Microsoft and Xbox games, they've kind of shit the bed, and continue to shit the bed in regards to their Game Pass gamble, the Activision Blizzard acquisition, and just that whole situation.
Closure of multiple studios.
Yeah, a bunch
That's
of
probably
studios.
continue going.
Yeah, and ironically enough, or unironically, those studios did very well, with the exception of Arcane Studios and Redfall. But again, aside from that flop, and we're actually going to touch on that in a bit, because they had plans for that. But Arcane Studios, aside from the Redfall flop, they're the guys that brought us Dishonored, and what was the other title? Dishonored and Prey, which were 2 very, very well received games. They've run a bunch of awards, especially Dishonored. Tango Studios, as we covered in our last episode, brought us Hi-Fi Rush, which won. I'm pretty sure that year it came out, which is what, 2019?
No, that was 2023. Hi-Fi
2023?
Rush.
Really?
That was just last year.
Why did I think it was 2019? Anyway, 2023. They won the BAFTA award.
They did.
They won a lot of awards. Honestly.
Lots.
They won a lot of awards, but they won the BAFTA award, and then they won another one for audio. Yeah, they won several awards. So again, these are not
let's close them down.
studios. Yeah, let's put down a winning horse. Like these are studios that won awards, that made absolutely fantastic games, and ironically enough, Hi-Fi Rush. Because Matt, you've played the game, right? Because I haven't played the game. Full
I
disclosure.
haven't, but I've watched like a full playthrough on YouTube, and it's it's not like the type of game that I normally play, but it is definitely like a fun game because like just like it's one of those games where you can tell the people working on it were having a lot of fun and how that bleeds through into the game itself.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't play that game because it definitely seems your type of game. It's very colorful.
I mean, mostly about genre. I'm not usually into like what would you call that? Like character action games.
I think so. Yeah.
Aren't too many that of those that I play, especially since it also had rhythm mechanics. I'm also
yeah.
not a rhythm game player. Very interesting marriage of like two genres, and they did it fantastically.
Yeah. This begs a side question, Matt. Do you have rhythm?
I'm just gonna say I'm a white man, so let that kind of just speak for it.
Oh, what is this? Now we're racial profiling. I see.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
White and male.
Matt's
You got
leading
2
into
strikes against you already.
Matt's leading into the white man stereotype. No, I can't dance.
I can't. I really can't.
It's okay, Matt. You can learn. I believe in you, buddy. I believe in you. Just takes practice.
John Travolta, man.
Right?
White
The
dude that
perfect
can
example.
dance.
That man can move, boy. That man can move. But anyway, so basically, here's the thing. After shutting down Tango Games, Arcane, and what was the third one? I can't remember off the top of my head. Hopefully, one of you. There was actually a couple. There's like 4 of them.
Yeah, those are the 2 like highest profile ones, I believe.
Yes, yeah, they were the 2 large ones. But unironically, the day after shutting down Tango Games, Xbox basically had a town hall meeting. And in that town hall meeting, Matt Booty, every time I read that, I laugh because, inside joke, Matt has a character named Booty.
Different spelling, but
different spelling. Yeah,
sounds the name.
Yeah, but he, who is the head of Xbox Games, stated, and I quote, "We need smaller games that give us prestige and awards."
At one point, they straight up said, "We need more games like Hi-Fi Rush."
Yeah.
After shutting down Tango,
it's like,
as might I add, as they were pitching a sequel to Hi-Fi Rush.
Yes, there was a sequel in the works for Hi-Fi Rush. Circling back to Arcane Studios and Redfall, they were actually actively working on an update to fix a lot of the bugs and a lot of the issues, and they pretty sure they had plans for a DLC as well. So these are games, in the case of Redfall, a game that didn't do very well, but they were actively trying to fix it. And then Hi-Fi Rush, Tango Studios was actively in the process of pitching. Again, none of these set with the exception of Redfall's update. The sequel to Hi-Fi Rush was in kind of talks to be pitched. So these are people who were actively looking to continue developing on the IPs. Then they got shut down.
Yeah, and I remember I talked about it a little bit in the last podcast because like it had just happened. Not a lot of info had come out yet. I was just wondering like why. I was baffled as to why. Like Arcane Austin made a little bit of sense. They've done some good things in the past, so like it's unfortunate that Redfall didn't do well, but there's at least a line of logic that could be followed. But Tango Gameworks was the real head scratcher there.
Yeah, because again, I think they won several awards for Hi-Fi Rush, and when I mean several, it's like more than 5.
Yeah, it was a success both critically and financially because a game's budget is surprisingly a lot lower when they don't advertise it at all. That bitch was shadow dropped.
Yeah.
No advertising, they just released it on the market and pretty much YouTubers and Twitch streamers took it from there.
Well, they had a much smaller, more agile design team as well. So I mean, it wasn't a huge 250 people on the most of it was done with like 5 people. and then that
Yeah.
towards the end to get it to release, they kind of bumped it up to
They-
just wrap
So
things
they won. Hold on. So I stand completely corrected because they only won 2 awards.
They got lots of nominations though.
But yeah, they
that's
got
still impressive.
So total, they have 1, 2, 3. Hold on, let me pull this up. All right. So they have 10 nominations. They had 10 total nominations. They won 2 awards. So they got nominated for best game awards for best audio design, best action game, best art direction, for innovations in accessibility, awards for family, the British Academy of Games Awards for family, Game Awards for best score and music, for best audio achievement, for best artistic achievement, for best intellectual property, and for best animation. They won for best animation and best audio design. So they won 2 out of 10 total nominations. That is a success. That is a screaming fucking success.
for a
Yeah,
small game that was never advertised,
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy if you think about
low
it.
budget. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, because especially when it came out at the same time as another game, what was called Forspoken.
Yes.
This came from Square Enix and was advertised, and that game
Did trash.
it did not go well. So having this like much bigger budget advertised game being outdone by something that was just dropped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It kind of speaks to how well Tango Gameworks did with
Yep.
Hi-Fi Rush. But since last week, a lot more like information has come out as to like what is going on at Microsoft. Like, why are they closing these studios, regardless of their, whether or not they were successful?
Mhm.
And
I'm gonna.
it kind of shows that they've made a few miscalculations in their planning. I'd say
It's actually 2 major points that we're going to get into today from my standpoint, and I'm sure Matt and Greg will have their points. But for me, it's 2 things. It's, as Matt just stated or alluded to, they bit off more than they could chew, and they made some mistakes along the way. And number 2, they're shifting focus. And again, we're gonna jump into that here in a second. But to kind of address that first piece, they bit off more than they can chew. So for those who, I don't know, I guess been living under a rock, no offense, but I'm pretty sure the entire world is aware of this, by now, because it's almost been a year. Microsoft and Xbox Games acquired Activision Blizzard sometime in the middle of last year for the grand total of $69 billion.
nice.
Yep. Everyone always says that.
It's the internet. You just kind of have to.
We all know.
It's one of the unspoken rules. Someone has to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
okay. Yeah, it was in the latter half of last year, October 13, 2023.
Yeah,
so
pretty soon.
$75.4 billion was the total amount, but the initial acquisition cost was about 68.7. So 69. Nice.
Yeah. So, which obviously is a massive amount of money that they spent to do that.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention the extra money they had to spend on the legal battle, because they actually had to fight the FTC here in America.
Yeah.
About that,
which I think accounts for some of the initial cost, the final cost.
Granted, Blizzard Activision was they were a behemoth in and of themselves.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And with some titles that really are the rocking titles. That's
Call of Duty. Probably the chief among them, which is one of the biggest franchises in gaming.
Right.
All together, it's crazy.
But there's a contrast here when you look at because before that they bought Bethesda,
Yes, they bought ZeniMax. Yeah.
And that transaction was and I mean, not chump change for sure, but that transaction
No.
was $7 billion, and then they paid 10 times that for Blizzard Activision. Now, they get really high, probably the highest profile IPs out of that transaction, but what I
mean, yeah, but ZeniMax is big, but it's nowhere near Activision Blizzard big. And compare those like giants to some of these smaller studios like Tango Gameworks, Arcane Austin, and some of the others. You kind of have to question
but Tango and Arcane Austin, I believe those two came with Blizzard.
I think they came with ZeniMax, actually.
Or they came with ZeniMax, okay.
Tango and Arcane Studios, I believe so.
Yeah, okay, now that I think on it, yes, because I remember Dishonored was a Bethesda game, and so was Hi-Fi Rush. So those two studios, I don't know about some of the others that got closed down, but those came with ZeniMax. So I think ZeniMax is the one being targeted by a lot of these closures. Yeah. At least the most high-profile ones.
At least for now. And the reason why I say that is because it seems like Microsoft and Xbox games are, it's kind of be crude. It seems like they are turning into a chop shop for small studios and funneling those resources to larger projects, which is essentially what they're doing. And their excuses, and this is a piece that kind of pisses me off personally. In digging into this and listening to interviews and what have you with Xbox games execs, and just kind of the overall picture that I'm getting here. They bought Activision Blizzard for $70 billion, right? $69 billion. And they're looking to these other studios to essentially help recoup the cost of that, which I guess that makes sense. But in my mind, wouldn't you look to the IPs that you got and the studio that you bought to help you recoup the cost of itself, instead of looking at these smaller studios that don't make those high profile large scale games? Because essentially you're expecting a game like Hi-Fi Rush, you're expecting a game like games like Dishonored or Prey, or studios with the capabilities to create those games to help recoup the cost of a $70 billion multi-studio giant. In my opinion, that's comparing apples to fucking oranges. Those games aren't even in the same ballpark.
Yeah, well, there's that big expenditure from the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and that cost them a lot of money. And there's one other factor also, is that Xbox Games Pass. The revenue growth on that, it has kind of been stagnating. It's technically still growing, but that growth is really slowing down. And their projections, they thought it was going to keep going up at a much faster rate. So by now, they spent a shit ton of money on that acquisition, and they're not getting as much money as they thought they would from Xbox Games Pass. Oh. So I think right now they're in a mode where it's like, we need to cut costs where we can.
That's absolutely would be a big piece of it. The Xbox subscription base being pretty much flat has gotta, that has to be impactful, especially when you look at what are the projections, what were their targets.
Their targets were pretty freaking high. I think they said they wanted to have 110 million Game Pass subscribers by 2030.
Yeah.
And right now they're around 30, 33, something like that.
33 million, yep.
Yeah.
So obviously they would, 6 years to nearly triple what they got.
Mhm.
That projection. Never say never. You don't know how things are going to go in the coming years, but it's definitely not looking good so far for that projection.
Well,
Yeah.
there's another side to look at with this, with what is Microsoft I mean, these really large companies, you know, what Microsoft, what the team there at Xbox was saying, 6 months ago, when they really were in the heart of making these big purchases, 6 months to 12 months ago, talking about, fostering an environment where these small studios, these up and coming, the the ingenuity and all that stuff, and fostering that stuff, and they felt that they could keep these studios going, and they wanted to create an environment of growth, and here's the problem you run into. Every business, especially corporate business like that, where you're publicly traded, one of the key measures is margin. And when you take a business like Xbox and you basically double it in size overnight, and that's I mean, the purchase of Blizzard Activision basically did that. You basically double it in size overnight. I mean, that it changes how you're going to look at success at that point, because you really got to start looking at, not only did you double the size of the business, you also doubled the size of the expenses involved with this. And you got to start looking at every product that you produce and putting targets on there, in which, when they do their financials, just like every other company, when they do their financials, they're going to do their financials based off of some target measures, which is, and the big one in there is going to be margin. Obviously, your projected sales and stuff like that, but margin is what determines the budgets for all of these things. And if these smaller game studios are just not living up to that margin expectation, that has a lot to do with this. But I'm not trying to back away and say that that they're not the bad guys in this situation. I don't know, bad guy, good guy, but I mean, it's just very simply, there is some logic behind what they're doing from a investment standpoint. The problem is that essentially they lied. I mean, they came out with this this big story about how they're going to be the heroes of the industry, and they're going to
foster creativity amongst these studios,
provide this environment where these up and coming studios can continue to grow and become the IPs of the future. And now suddenly here we are. They basically just cut the feet right out from under these people, and what does that do to the market as well? Because if you're only going to, I think we've all experienced this in if you look back over like the last 15 years, okay, there was a point, and this kind of comes and goes. There's a point where you have a massive amount of games, and you have this wide variety of things that you can get. In most marketplaces will carry a wide variety of things, but then when things start to get lean, you see that variety begin to squeeze down to just the most popular titles. So you know that if you know that if you're going to, and I think online stores a lot same in this regard, but if you're going to, let's say, Walmart or Best Buy, okay, you're only going to see the top titles there, because they're just not going to carry the other stuff. And that sucks. I mean, it really limits what your options are as a consumer. You don't have access to all these other things, but to just outright kill these studios, and I mean, it's not that you're burying that product, it's that you're just cutting it off entirely. These are design teams that created some really awesome games and put them out into the world, and it's just not, there's not going to be anymore. Right. I mean, there'll be new design studios, there'll be new stuff that comes, but those groups that created those things and did that work, those teams now have been broken up and
either let go or move to other teams. The thing, and I understand where you're getting at, Greg, because that was my initial thoughts as I was doing the research for this is like, okay, from a investment and business standpoint, I understand them having margins. I understand them having, adjusting their scale, so to speak. Now, at the risk of sounding like I'm in my feelings, is that fair? Is it? And I mean, fair doesn't matter, but that's the best word I can subscribe to this. Or rather, not fair. Is it logical? Is it logical to hold a studio that is not designed to produce at the level of, let's say, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, any of the larger studios that Microsoft has, and hold them to that same standard when they literally cannot compete? They don't have the personnel. They don't have the IP. And hold them to that standard.
They can't get into the isolated marketplaces. That's another big piece to this, is they can't break into the isolated marketplaces like the Xbox, like the PlayStation Network. I mean, those are isolated platforms for games. And even to an extent, even Steam is an isolated platform. They're very convenient.
It's the most open. It's
the
most open of all of them for obvious reasons. It was the first of its kind, so it's the most popular. I mean, at this point, you'd be stupid if you didn't put your game up on Steam. Like, let's call it what it is. But yeah, no, I agree. These are very self-contained ecosystems, and games like Hi-Fi Rush and Prey, while on those, especially actually they're on Steam and they're on Xbox Games Pass, so they're on their ecosystem, but they just can't compete with Call of Duty or all those other things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, if I'm someone sitting there looking at the books, I'd be like, well, how can we hold this studio to the same standard as this studio? They're just, again, they're apples to oranges.
Margin. That's what that's. Yeah. It's all about margin with that, because you hit the nail on the head. They're small, but I mean, they don't have the profitability that these bigger IPs have, because they just don't have that power in the marketplace.
Which goes directly counter to what Microsoft, if not outright stated, was definitely alluding to their mission statement.
Right.
A couple of years ago, of being the hero we need for the the creativity of the industry.
Oh yeah, there's
a good story.
There's a lot of things that they've said that are now kind of mud on face. One of the things, Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, saying that they weren't going to shut down Arcane Austin despite the Redfall's troubles, because he wanted to nurture that studio. Because again, it's a studio that has a proven track record of making good games. Also, probably a big reason for Redfall's downfall was that a live service is like multiplayer live service, or that's not the type of game Arcane Austin made. That was not their wheelhouse. So
they're mostly
not to say that studios can't do something different and have it work well. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush is proof of that, but at the same time, it's definitely it shouldn't be surprising when that happens either. Like, they made single player immersive Sims, and they did that very well.
Actually, speaking of that, you just reminded me, Arcane Studios actually had plans. So not only were they going to update and fix a lot of the bugs for Redfall, but they were also in talks to pitch what they're good at, the Sims, well, maybe multiplayer, but the Sims-like games that they're typically known for making, set in an IP that was very successful, i.e. Dishonored.
Oh yeah, that probably would have done pretty well.
Yeah,
that's the way I understood that is that they were actually working on. They were in the process of working on collaborative play for that game.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being isolated single player, they were working on collaborative play. That was like the next thing they were going to come out with, and now we'll never see it. So
yeah. And one of the irony of all this, one of the pieces of irony, because there's several. Microsoft actually recorded a 20% increase in quarterly profits for a gross total, and this is company wide, not just Xbox games, of $22 billion.
that's the acquisition of Activision Blizzard.
Yep.
Yeah,
That was
'cause
based off of that, and
brings in a lot of extra revenue there.
and then unironically, the payout to Bobby Kotick, which came to the tune of $375 million.
Yeah.
You right there, Matt?
That's
They didn't pay him enough, Matt. He needed more.
I'm accepting that man gonna get his golden parachute, but I'm just hoping he stays out of the games industry from now on.
We're gonna see him again next year, I promise.
Hopefully not, but we'll see.
Yeah, I hope not too. But yeah, $375 million. That could have supported these studios. Absolutely could have supported these studios. But you know, he needed that payout. Jesus, $375 billion.
Million.
That's
million,
not
million.
Sorry, million.
I was about to say, goddamn.
No, I don't. Well, actually,
name me Bobby Kotick for $375 billion. I'll do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think Microsoft has $375 billion, but they are a $1 trillion company, so maybe they do. Maybe they fucking do. But yeah, like they had ample enough money to support these. They just didn't. They didn't because again, as Greg said, out margins. But also, and this is the other kind of point that I was going to make. They're shifting. They're shifting their focuses to these major IPs and studios that are essentially leaning into that evergreen model. That subscription-based model, namely games like Fallout, Elder Scrolls, the games from Blizzard Activision that they can, continue to have people buy into, with the live service models. I mean, they're really leading heavy into Fallout now because of the show that did really well, which I recommend watching. It actually it was a really good show. And the games that are starting to get a lot more interest. So they're leaving these smaller, single IPs, smaller studios kind of to the wayside to focus on the things that are going to continuously bring in money. And I hate to say it, but from a business standpoint, it makes sense. But from a creative standpoint and the standpoint that they started out with buying up these studios, it's kind of like you're going back on your word, man.
Well, I mean, here's another question. Like, is this in the long term a good decision? Because, we talk about the business and, short term, looking at those profit margins, trying to reduce some of the overhead costs after after the huge merger and the lackluster growth of Games Pass. Like, short term, that seems good, but over the long term, was that a good decision? Because Tango Gameworks they were knocking it out of the park, and they were surely set to grow and continue to do better and better as, studios normally do as they go on. So, in the long term, was that even a good decision to shut them down like that? Because surely they would have kept on doing better. They would have been pulling in more and more money, right?
Yeah, well, as we talked about,
it's the future, so you can't say for certain, but
yeah. And as we said in the past, they companies are now, for various reasons, but speaking specifically to the gaming industry, companies are now focusing on leaning out and pumping up and bolstering those profit margins at this point in time. That's what they're doing, and again, for various reasons, shifting of focus. The global economic situation is definitely not not good, especially for the U.S. dollar. So there's a lot of different things going on. I
personally, I wonder, obviously not knowing the inside mechanisms that are there, and with such a short period of time, I highly doubt that this was even really considered. But why didn't they just spin those studios off?
You mean let them go to kind of
Yeah, spin them off. Let private investment pick up those studios. I know there's some IP discrepancy there because they still get to maintain the IPs that belonged with those studios. But
Yeah.
I mean, why just shut it down and break it up? Why not spin it off? Sell it off. I mean, make back part of your 70 billion that you overpaid for Activision Blizzard, and instead of just killing it.
Yeah, well, as Infinity, of course, as you yourself said, Greg, IPs is a big part of it.
Yeah,
especially successful IPs. They want to keep
Right.
Dishonored. They want to keep Evil Within, Hi-Fi Rush. They
don't have to sell the IP with the company. That's the thing.
you can license it.
That's true. One thing I can say is that in Tango Gameworks' case, their founder and executive producer Shinji Mikami actually left after Hi-Fi Rush. He announced, I think 8 years prior, give or take, that he was going to leave, but he stayed longer
to finish Hi-Fi Rush.
To kind of, I don't know specifically that because I don't know how long Hi-Fi Rush was in production, but essentially to see projects through to completion.
I want to say 4 years.
I could see that being about a 4 year.
4 years.
But so very key personnel left there, and I think he started his own studio and took some people with him. Don't quote me on that one. I read that on a Reddit thread. So that piece, take it with as much salt as you want to take.
It's on the internet. It has to be true.
Of course, Greg.
Yeah.
Greg has the right idea. If it's on the internet, it's totally true.
So the part that we do know is that Shinji Mikami left, and he was a very important person there. Whether or not he started his own studio and took several personnel with him, I can't confirm that yet. So that's just a maybe right there. But in that case, if that is true, how much was Tango Gameworks worth at that point if they lost those very key personnel?
That's a fair point, because we do know that a studio's kind of valuation will drop when key personnel leaves. We could look at let's look at Final Fantasy XIV. If Yoshi P ever left, that they would be really looking hard at that IP and be like, okay, well, what the fuck we're gonna do now? Because he's the heart and soul of Final Fantasy XIV. Again, he's one of the most important pieces, but not the only important piece. But if Yoshi P was no longer attached to Final Fantasy XIV, it would suffer for sure. So you bring up a good point, is that you had people who were kind of instrumental to what was successful no longer be there. It could affect sales, and here's another piece, with regards to the Game Pass piece, during COVID and shortly thereafter, immediately post COVID, a lot of these, Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Network, they were seeing, an incredible increase in subscribers for obvious reasons. Again, people were stuck inside their homes, didn't have anything else to do. So pretty sure a large majority of folks they got PlayStations, they got Xboxes, they subscribed to the pass, and they were playing all these games. Now people are stepping back outside, getting back to work, doing things that don't have them in front of a console or, playing games as much. So yeah, things are going to slow down. And I think, again, it's not just Xbox and Microsoft. I think a lot of places were like, hey, let's get while the getting's good with this, lockdown situation. And now they're like, well, we kind of bit off way more than we could fucking, handle. And yeah, we're seeing the fucking repercussions of that one.
when and there's economics that play into that
Yeah.
whole thing, because I mean, no matter what we like to think, what is one of the first things to go when you have to start tightening your belt is entertainment. And
Yep.
that's one of the first things to go. Because you've got to maintain the other things. You got to have a roof over your head. You got to have food to eat. If you're working, you got to have a way to get back and forth. All those things you got to take care of. So when it gets tight, the first thing you're going to look at is what do I do for me? Because that's always the thing that goes first. Is what do I do that's just for me? And that entertainment piece, something like Game Pass. I mean, do you really have to have Game Pass? I mean,
No.
and that's
Nope.
that's a lot of people start. I think there's a lot of people that are asking themselves that question right now. Not necessarily just Game Pass, but I mean about a lot of things. Do I really need to have Hulu and Netflix and Amazon
All the-
Prime and maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. It's a want, not a need.
Right.
So, and kind of circling back to what I had said about comparing the success of, let's say, Tango Games to Activision Blizzard and the success of the various IPs that they have. There was actually a quote by Sarah Bond, who is, I want to say she's one of the head shed at Microsoft, but I can't remember her exact position. Second.
Google is executive.
She's one of the executives,
current-
at Xbox Games.
Yeah, current president of Xbox at Microsoft.
There we go. Yeah, so she's one of the current, execs at Xbox Games, but she was quoted saying, in terms of success of, the success matrix that Xbox has is basically one size does not fit all regarding what a success is or not, and that's basically on the heels of the current, closures, and because the interviewer asked her, like, hey, based on certain things, like how do you evaluate the success of, let's say Hi-Fi Rush and these other IPs, and it just goes to show you that even internally they don't have a set system. It's up and down. So it's like, well, okay, if it's not set in stone, if there are no clear parameters.
That whole thing though, her whole answer to that question was a 5-minute long word salad that was a non-answer.
Absolutely.
There wasn't an answer in there. It was.
The entire interview, her answers were those word salads that said nothing, or things that like strip contradict what they're actually doing. Such as the lip service about trying to foster creativity, small studios, that's contradicting the actions. And then, as you said, complete word salads to try to avoid actually answering questions.
Oh yeah. It was a nothing burger. Absolutely nothing burger. She said nothing of note, didn't answer the fucking question. But it just goes to show you that they're scrambling, and it's clear that they're scrambling. And it's a shame because, again, we as a consumer and the community at large, both on the consumer side of things and the development side of things, we're left holding the bag because now we're not going to see the sequel to Hi-Fi Rush. We're not going to see what Redfall could turn into with updates and fixes and the proposed DLC.
Yeah,
we're not going to. Yeah, we're not going to see what the continued development of the Dishonored universe is going to look like, because both Dishonored 1 and 2 did really fucking well, and they were planning on coming out with another game that's going to be set in that universe. So we could have seen more of Dishonored, more of that universe. Maybe some old characters could have come back, the ones that lived anyway. A lot of people died. So it just seems very irresponsible. That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
It's just irresponsibility on their part, because you consolidated, you bought up all these studios, stating like, hey, this is what we're going to do with them, and you didn't do it. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but that just goes to show us as we can't trust their word, and hopefully smaller studios are seeing this. And granted, I understand, you see a lot of dollar signs, you see a lot of zeros behind a number. That, I mean, let's face it, Microsoft has life-changing money. It is what it is. But
Well, and there's still I mean, it's not like they closed down all the little studios, because that's, I mean,
there's still more.
There's
a
still
lot
more.
a lot more, and some of them are not even under, at this point. How would you look at it? Because you're talking about life-changing money. You're talking about, okay, I mean, Xbox has bought a lot of these smaller studios up under their own umbrella. So I mean,
Yes.
these guys are not part of the Square Enix transaction. They're not part of the Blizzard Activision transaction.
Yep.
I mean, you got to kind of look at some of those people right now and just wonder,
Oh, if I was one of them,
how are they sleeping at night? Because I mean,
absolutely. Honestly, I'd be stressed the fuck out right now. I'd be like, hold on, wait a minute. They just closed. They bought these guys. We were already with them. They bought these guys and they shut them down. Basically, when are we
Regardless,
gonna?
they can succeed.
and think about it this way:
Yeah.
if you're one of those smaller studios that's relative in size and you haven't won any awards,
Right?
like Tango
oh my
has.
god!
I mean,
Yeah.
holy
See,
shit!
that's the
Like,
thing. They have lots of others. Like Obsidian Entertainment is under Microsoft. They have
Yep.
the people who made Fallout New Vegas, Outer Worlds.
Mhm.
Now the OG
actually-
Fallout guys, like
Yep.
they're they're in that same boat right now, and I'm sure that the folks over there are like, are we cool? Are we cool?
that's
You know?
that's the
I can
same
only
lady.
imagine.
The same lady you're talking about did exactly that when it came to answering these questions regarding smaller studios and she you have to ask yourself, what does this have to do with anything? She like interjects and pulls out the Fallout series, throws that out there. It's tremendous success.
yeah.
What does that have to do with Tango?
That
What does
was
that
my
have
question.
to do with any of these little studios?
Deflecting.
Right.
It's deflecting. Like don't think about that. Look at this. Wow. Look at this other thing. Wow. Amazing.
Look,
So
it's
shiny.
doing so well. It's
Look
so
at the Fallout
successful.
TV show. That's how I answer this. That's how I answer the question about the studio closures.
Obsidian
Fallout TV show. Look at that.
Obsidian may not be a behemoth, but I mean they're not necessarily a small fry either. I mean, they've been
they're
around
in charge of
True.
one of the-
a long while now. It's not,
But they're not the ones dealing with Fallout anymore.
No. Who
They're-
is
that-
that?
Ever since New
That's
Vegas,
ZeniMax, right? It's been ZeniMax.
ZeniMax,
Bethesda.
more specifically Bethesda. But yeah, the last time Obsidian had anything to do with Fallout, that was New Vegas, which fantastic game, one of the best Fallout games.
It's probably this.
Stop.
This-
Don't do that.
This is kind of going to be a little shade, but it might be why Fallout 4 didn't do as well, story-wise.
Oh.
I'll admit I didn't get too much into like I wasn't that into Fallout 4 story. I definitely do prefer New Vegas.
Look. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest here. I can only go off of what I've heard, and I've heard repeatedly from multiple people. Fallout, as gameplay-wise, combat-wise, was great. Story-wise, so.
Listen, Fallout 4, the gunplay was vastly improved. That is a major W I will give Fallout 4. The gunplay felt so much better. As far as like I'd say an RPG, I'd say New Vegas does that better. The way like the dialogue, the way like dialogue options. How
I can only go off of Fallout 3. I've never. Sorry, not Fallout 3. Fallout New Vegas. Haven't played 4 yet, so I can't speak to any of that.
I'd say New Vegas does far better in RPG standpoint. Having dialogue, having skills and stats actually give you unique options for your dialogue. Like low intelligence runs are hilarious for the shit that you can say as a dumbass.
Oh, and Fallout New Vegas.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you done a stupid run?
I need to one of these days because I've actually I played it back on the console back in the day, but I've got it on my Steam wish list. I'm waiting for that Steam summer sale right now. But I've seen some clips of some shit you can say as with the low intelligence character, and like everyone you talk to, they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? What?" Oh, you like give people headaches all the time. It's hilarious.
I'm not surprised you're gonna play a stupid run. For those of you who don't know, Matt is the king of making weird fucking characters.
Oh, it's hella fun. But yeah. So anyway, back get a little bit back on track here.
Mm-hmm.
Obsidian, they're no longer dealing with Fallout, even if they were the ones who did it, in my opinion, the best. So they don't have that like extremely successful IP under their belt right now. So I don't know. They could very well be next on that chopping block. I don't consider them safe right now after folks like Tango got shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Microsoft has been, Xbox has been very clear in their statement in saying they're not done yet. So, I mean...
Exactly. So, pray for the folks at Obsidian right now, and
I don't know. With all that talk about Fallout 4, I'm thinking I'm not going to pray for Obsidian.
What, just to spite me?
No, I love all the Fallout series. Every single one of them. They all have their ups and downs, and they all released kind of shitty. And I mean, you can go all those places, but the Fallout universe is something that I've always particularly liked. So
yeah, I mean, I've played 3 New Vegas and 4.
Yes,
I never played the original Fallout. And never played 76.
No, I haven't played 76. I haven't played 4. I've played 3 and New Vegas, and I think I've watched a playthrough of the first 2.
I see my interpretation or my impression of 76 is different. Because when I first played 76, I literally was playing it like any other Fallout game. More or less single player, because I really didn't get in. I didn't get engaged with all the multiplayer stuff going on. And so I was just playing story, and there's a lot of really good story in that game as well. That pulls from all the other games. So, and I mean, you guys know me. I'm the story guy. I love story. And I think that's the thing about the Fallout games is there's such a wide variety of different storylines that go through all the games, with the exception of Fallout Tactics. That kind of has that's a pretty.
I always forget that exists.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that. So I'm assuming the story for that one is kind of not on par.
Well, no, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's just very linear, and it's all about the Brotherhood. So, yeah. But I've never been a big Brotherhood of Steel fan. I'll put it that way. A
little too militant.
That's I don't know about the militant piece to it, but the whole concept of the Brotherhood of Steel is very, very arrogant.
Oh yeah, no, they hoard technology.
Mm-hmm.
Because they
don't
don't
even fucking use it.
Yeah, because they don't believe that people out there are capable of handling it, and like that could be that. There's an argument for that when you think of like, oh, the fucking nuclear bombs that destroyed the whole world. But there's also a lot of technology that could be used to genuinely help people,
right,
and like make life a lot better in that world. And they hold on to that shit. They don't help people. They don't do anything. We're just gonna yank this and we're just gonna put that in the pocket.
There was a concept in Fallout 3 that was introduced, and that was the outcasts. And I really wish they would have carried that into Fallout 4. I think I think there was something that they could have done so much more with that, but they didn't. So yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean it's just a small faction that was, in the area for Fallout 3. I forget what they called it. I know it was like you're in Washington. I forget what they called that. Whatever. Because they always have a name for the area, whether you're in the Commonwealth, the Mojave Desert,
Capital Wasteland.
Capital Wasteland?
Yeah.
Right, Capital Wasteland. Yeah, that's it. So it might just be a small faction localized in the Capital Wasteland. But yeah, Brotherhood. I could see if you're a fan of like Warhammer 40k and you love the Space Marines, you're probably gonna love the Brotherhood just because they have the power armor. It just scratches that same itch.
No, the Enclave, man. Enclave.
You're in here,
Enclave all the way. Enclave is definitely.
I'm actually a little bit offended that you compared the Brotherhood of Steel to a Space Marine, just a little bit.
Look, it's dude in big.
You can tell that he doesn't know Games Workshop products at all. I'm guessing.
There's a big difference, Matt. There's a big difference. One can take a nuke to the face and keep on walking. The other one cannot.
You're saying that a Space Marine could actually take a nuclear bomb?
Yes, they can actually.
They might have a little touch.
I don't know enough about Warhammer lore.
They might have a little touch of chaos after that, but I mean,
The Space Marine
big armor.
Space Marines and anyway, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole because that's another rabbit hole. But I mean, just getting us back on the rails, so to speak. It just seems irresponsible, and again, like we've said throughout this episode, just definitely counter to what they were saying initially. And the thing that also kind of sticks in my craw is the fact that Phil Spencer genuinely throughout his entire career has been supportive of games. Like he's been kind of that guy who's like, yeah, let's make the best games we can. He's been trying to grow the Xbox game studio for quite, for the almost the entirety of his career, and he's done a pretty decent job. But it just seems like they're on a tear right now, and they're basically, if you ain't up to snuff, you got to go. And I can't even imagine what those small studios are going through right now.
Yeah, I mean,
because these are people now out of work.
Yeah,
and thrust into a market that's both difficult, even with experience, even with release titles under your belt. It's getting more difficult to transition to another studio because the market's saturated, and everyone's trying to lean out in terms of that margin, as you said, Greg.
Well, and the big companies are gobbling up everything.
Yeah.
So it's all
consolidation.
Right.
Yep.
So I mean, what are your choices? You get fired by Microsoft, and all of your options are Microsoft.
Yeah, essentially Microsoft or Microsoft equivalents. It's like, okay,
right.
Do I go back to Microsoft and hope they don't notice that I'm re-up? Like, what do you do? Just change your name on the application?
Oh, they'd never do that again. Lightning never strikes twice, right?
It's like how you make a new account for, taking free trials on something, like Amazon Prime or whatever service. You just do the same thing with jobs, right?
Just create new identities and go to the same job.
Yeah, just go back to the interview with the little fake mustache on, and like they won't notice.
They won't notice.
Oddly enough, that actually, maybe not so much in this particular instance, but that does happen rather frequently.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
Very,
very.
The application or the fake mustache bit.
Well, I don't know about the fake mustache thing, but I tell you, I have had in the. I'll just put it this way: I know at least one person who I've known by 3 different names.
I feel like there's a story there. We're gonna have to either talk about this off
Yeah.
screen or
Yeah,
at the end of the
yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
that sounds hilarious.
Yeah, that sounds like a off-screen thing because we don't want to say people's
Yeah.
real names or shit like that.
Or fake names or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Anyway.
I guess you could say.
Let's just say this.
No,
it,
just play
it
it
happens,
safe. Let's
and-
not even say fake names.
it happens, but here's the thing with this. It's because, this is way off topic, but it's because
Yeah.
people, buying a new identity, man, sometimes it's not even identity theft. Some people will literally sell the use of their social security number and things like that.
Shit, the more you fucking know. Huh.
Yeah. It happens. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Matt, would you like to take us into our next topic?
Yeah, so that's about it for what's been going on at Microsoft for right now. Guess we'll see who else gets shut down in the coming weeks. Praying for you, Obsidian. Hopefully you'll be okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that. But so onto the other side of the fence of Microsoft, we have Sony.
Well, they're perfect. You remember our last conversation about Sony?
I think our last conversation about Sony is exactly the opposite there. So this is essentially some of the follow-up on what's been going on after the whole Helldivers 2 bit, which, very quick
The
refresher.
review bombs conversation?
That and more. So the quick recap of that was Sony implemented mandatory account linking for Helldivers 2, meaning people who are playing on PC had to link a PlayStation Network account. People didn't like that. Game got review bombed to all hell, and Sony ended up walking that back. That is the shortest and skinniest of that situation.
And what else happened? What else happened?
I mean, a lot of people, not everyone, have been taking those negative reviews back, either deleting them
Yep.
or changing them back to positive.
Yep.
I'm actually curious what it looks like right now. If
It's
Still
mixed,
says
but
mixed.
mostly positive reviews.
I'm just
the
saying,
recent
I'm
reviews
betting
is
a lot of those people that decided to follow that whole, change your review thing because they're behaving themselves now are feeling pretty chapped.
Yep.
well, they can go and change them again. so,
Yeah, so
'cause,
all
what
reviews are
Sony-
mostly positive.
That's all reviews.
When these, I stand behind this. When these big companies do stupid shit, don't let them off the hook. Just don't do it. Don't go
Yep.
change your review. You put a review out there because you felt passionately about what they did. Leave it there. They need. Go ahead, Matt. I'll stop interrupting because you can tell the rest of the story because, yeah.
So, one of the big things of what happened, because they made that linking of the accounts mandatory, is that they stopped selling Helldivers 2 in many, many countries of the world that did not have access to the PlayStation Network service. I believe this comes out to about nearly 180 countries across the world.
Yep.
And everyone thought that they rolled that back, that the account linking was no longer mandatory, that they were going to reopen the game for purchase on Steam to those other countries, because after all, you don't need PlayStation Network anymore. Why continue to close off those markets? Well, I assumed at the time that it was going to take some time to reopen that, but it hasn't been reopened yet. And more than that, another game that was another Sony game has also restricted itself from those countries, Ghost of Tsushima, because I think that it either came out on Steam recently or is
It's
going
on the way
to.
out. It's on the
It's
way
on
out.
the way out.
Yeah.
So they're doing that with Ghost of Tsushima as well, restricting access to only the countries where you that have PlayStation Network.
Hmm.
So that's making people think twice about what Sony is doing, because it seemed like they were rolling things back, but it seems like they're still going forward with whatever they're planning here, and with that
It was a
linking of
lie.
accounts.
It was a fucking lie.
Yeah, so because they haven't reopened that for like the sale of Helldivers 2 in all those other countries, it's looking very likely that they're looking to reintroduce that mandatory linking again down the line.
You know, I think the Nazi Germans said it best. War is diplomacy by other means. And that's exactly what Sony has done here. Is they've done what they wanted to do anyway. They just used a different path.
Yep. And I
Not
think
sure how I
Matt,
feel
you and
about
I were.
quoting Nazi Germany, but I see your point.
Well, I mean, you know what? I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to. I could say something. I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to get canceled. I think that would get me canceled. I'm not going to do it.
I didn't say that I agreed with it. I mean,
no, I definitely don't agree with it. Just anyway, moving on. Matt, and I think Matt, you and I were talking
just before the
the stream started. Yeah.
Yeah.
As to the why of it, because again, granted, I will say this: most of those countries that are restricted are what would be classified as second and third world developed countries. So, and again, not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm fairly certain compared to the 68 or 69? Is it 68?
I think the point is, I don't know the exact number, but essentially the idea that these countries that have that access restricted are essentially probably not the biggest part of the overall market.
Exactly. Like they're not
big players like
money.
Like the States or Japan or
or China,
UK, or China, where the gaming industry is huge.
Mm-hmm. They're not pulling in that much revenue from those countries, which hey, that it is what it is.
Well, Japan's a pretty big market, though. I mean, Japan's a pretty good sized market.
Oh yeah.
But I think you said something.
Both Sony and Nintendo. That's Japan.
Yeah, that's their market. But you said something, Matt, because I can't remember the question I asked you. I think the question was basically why, like what's because you had we tried to call it a tinfoil hat theory, but we opted for aluminum foil hat because it wasn't that deep. So I'm gonna let Matt share his.
It wasn't real tin.
Yeah, exactly. It was a theory. It was a theory that's just coming completely out of my head. It makes enough sense, or I'm not going to say tinfoil hat theory, but still kind of just pulling it out of my ass. So you guys can take this with however much salt you want. But the idea that I was kind of mulling over in my head was that, because we've talked about, like, I think last time, why they would want to mandate this account linking to help pretty much boost the PlayStation Network ecosystem.
Yeah.
But they're also, they're closing off access to all those other markets, which does, come at a cost. So I think that this is likely, and, putting on my aluminum hat or tinfoil hat or whatever, I think this is likely a step in the plan. They got something down the line that they believe is going to be far more profitable to make losing those other markets worth it, essentially. And I really hope this is the part where I've really pulled something out of my ass. And I hope it's not true, but it's also something I could see happening. To where, because they want everything to be linked to the PlayStation Network accounts, even if you're on Steam, your PC. They want that linked to your PlayStation Network.
Yeah, you have to link it. Yep.
If you're on console playing, a PS5, PS4, PS whatever, you're having to pay for PlayStation Plus in order to use their online services.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I'm thinking, and I hope this isn't true, but I could also see them planning for it, is that they want to try to have that be the case for PC users as well. Because if everything is linked through the PlayStation Network account, that would honestly be pretty easy to enforce. Like, all right, you get this game through Steam, okay, you have to link your PlayStation Network
And
account.
then if you want to play the game,
Yeah, if you want to use the online services of this PlayStation game, you're going to have to pay the subscription fee for PlayStation Plus.
and we're seeing most games moving to an online, always online trajectory, even games that have an offline mode, which Ghost of Tsushima does. The primary campaign is a single player campaign that can be played currently offline via the console. So
both of those games actually have really good reviews as well. So I mean,
so Matt, you're not necessarily wrong, buddy. And I like you. I hope you are wrong. But only time will tell.
Yeah, because I could see them going for something like that because they're able to put that monetization on online services on their consoles. Why not try to do it for the same games? They're accessing the same servers through Steam. I could see them wanting to get into that and monetize that as well. And this could be the step that they make towards enforcing that, because if everything is linked to a PSN account, that's an easy way to enforce it. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I really do, but
scary times, man. Scary times.
That's just my speculation there.
Well, from a monetization and market share standpoint, it makes perfect sense what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that it's had to go the way it's going, but I mean, these are, and Sony, Sony for one, Nintendo's another one, but I mean these companies make moves very deliberately. And I mean the Japanese they don't necessarily do much of anything frivolously. They're very well thought out moves. Doesn't mean that they're moves that are deliberately done to make people like them. I mean, it's more about the health of the business and making sure that their business stays viable over the long term.
Nintendo, they're fucking pros at being at war with their own community.
They're old hats at that.
Well,
Go back 20 years.
I don't think I would say that they're at war with their own community. I mean, honestly, it's
an exaggeration.
What would you prefer? Would you prefer that they let their business go into the ground and then that whole network, that whole infrastructure that's been built around that company goes away? And then what?
Here's my counter to that, Greg. And while I agree with you, the business has to be healthy and profitable for it to continue to succeed. However, you can go back and pay and try and purchase the old Mario Brothers, the first fucking Mario Brothers on the NES, and you'll still pay full fucking price for it. That game is 30 years old.
I mean, why
should you pay less for it? Honestly, why should you pay less for it? Are we devaluing ourselves, our products? I say, okay, I just want to put it this way, all right? Let's just put this into context. You create something today, all right? And you charge whatever, $50 for it. You create something today, you charge $50 for it. 20 years from now, you're going to be way better at creating that thing, but you may still be charging $50 for it. For whatever you create 20 years from now. Does that make, because you're way better at this, does that make what you created previously now worth less? I mean, is your time and your energy and your resources that you spent 20 years ago worth less than the time, energy, and resources that you spend now?
Part of me wants to say no, obviously not. However,
you want a bargain. You want a deal. You want to buy that game that you played when you were a kid, and you don't want it to be expensive.
pretty much, considering the quality of the game and what was capable at the time, is grossly inferior to what is capable now.
Yeah, but that's the thing to it is you debase the product that you're selling. That's the I mean you don't see Apple selling old phones for cheap. Do you?
True. Although they really don't sell a lot of old phones
Well,
because
no, they just continuously
OS is-
push the new product. But
Yeah.
if they did carry the old product, do you think they would offer it to you as a discount?
probably not.
It's about the valuation of the product overall. That's the thing. And I
That's
understand completely charging $50 for Mario Brothers, the 30-year-old version of it. I don't like it as a consumer, but I understand it. And if I really want, at this point, that game is so old and outdated, and nobody's
You
making
really
that.
gotta want it. You really gotta want it.
Right. You really gotta want it, no matter what the price tag is. So that's the thing. You look at commodities prices, collectibles, and you can gauge this off of different platforms. Look at eBay. Okay, look at eBay, and look at what commodity values are. And when I say commodities, I'm saying things that are nostalgic, that people are paying for simply because it's no longer available, but you want it.
Yeah,
Okay?
it's a collector's item.
Right. I collect Dragon magazine, and you go back into like the early issues, and I mean some of those are this magazine sold for like $2.35 at the time, and it's now selling for $250, and it's not even in mint condition.
Jesus Christ.
So that's
No.
to say
I don't
I
want
think I
anything
should
that
only
bad.
pay $5 for a 30-year-old game is like, okay, so why is it worth so much less? I mean, what is the, if anything, because you can't get it, it's rare,
Worth more.
it should be worth more. You should pay $100 for that one. Hey, I'm just saying, but to say that they should sell it for less because it's a 30-year-old game is
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, Greg, they agree with you because they don't put shit on sale. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, when I was saying war at their own community, I'd say that we're making a reference to how heavily that they always send like cease and desists, shut
Oh,
down
yeah.
like tournaments, all this stuff of people trying to celebrate their love of Nintendo.
Mhm.
Countless fan games. That like Smash Bros. Melee has a very active competitive scene, and those folks have been a constant warfare with Nintendo. With Nintendo trying to do everything that it can to shut down those tournaments. It's rough to be a Nintendo fan, honestly,
well
because
when
they make good games that have great IPs, but you try to get creative with the way you show your love for it, they will take
Nope.
you the fuck down.
Yep. It's like, nope, we're not doing that here.
Part of that though is because Japan doesn't really have fair use laws like we have here in the West,
Yeah.
and that causes some plenty of issues when you're an American who's doing things right by American law, but
You're playing a Japanese game.
yeah, they're like, no, you can't do that. International law, baby, always fun.
Yeah, no joke. But back to Helldivers 2 and that whole piece. Man, I don't know. And here's the thing. Arrowhead Games, the CEO, he's kind of on the well, not kind of, he is on the player side. He's been still in regular communication with the community via Twitter and kind of updating folks like, hey, we're still in talks with Valve, which is Steam, and PlayStation on trying to get this situation resolved. And honestly, I wish them the best of luck because as I'm sitting here thinking about your hypothesis, Matt, I'm thinking you're not far off. Really not, um, because that seems like the direction that they're leaning in.
I gotta be the
Oh.
whoops.
Did you just kick that off?
No,
Oh,
no, he dropped. He'll be back.
okay.
Connection there.
There
it
he
is. Watch this. So that'll teach him.
Sure. Whatever you're referencing that.
So I gotta be the 12th man or whatever that 10th man. Well, I don't know what that philosophy is.
That
but
saying is.
if everybody else is agreeing with something, then I gotta say the opposite because.
Oh, Matt, there's two of you. Oh no, he's cloned himself.
Two of them. What are you doing? Oh, one froze. So let's put this
Yeah.
one. We'll put the other one in there now. Okay.
You guys thought we wouldn't slot in our technical difficulties section of the stream. We saved it toward near the end. We thought we'd jump scare you.
This is a normal
Is
piece
it a
of what
real
we do
stream?
now.
It's
Actually,
a real stream if we don't have technical issues. Though. That's the
Exactly.
question.
Exactly.
amazingly enough, usually when usually the only time here's the oddity to that is usually the only time we don't have like these type of technical difficulties is when we have a guest on the stream. We usually that
You know what?
goes
I'll take it.
lot
I'll take
smoother. Yeah. But
Yeah,
when
I'll
it's
take it.
when it's us or our game streams, it's like we at least have to have one point in there where
Streamlabs.
something happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Streamlabs don't care.
Yeah, but in regards to like the Helldivers too in the community, one thing I want to point out, and all salutes to this person. Not all heroes wear capes. The community manager at Arrowhead that told people to start review bombing.
I think his name was
they
Sliz.
were-
It was Sliz,
They
something
were
like that.
let go, which if you think from a business perspective, it shouldn't be surprising. Person's telling one of your own employees is telling folks to go review bomb the game you made. Like that part, it makes sense, but I still salute that person for organizing the community. Good work, soldier, and I hope
Yep.
you find a good
For
job
democracy.
for democracy, and I hope they find work elsewhere.
Yep.
Hope that worked out for you.
Fucking democracy, man. Holy
Again,
shit.
not all heroes wear capes.
Nope.
Because, again,
I'm really glad that they organized their community and fought back to it. I really, I stand behind what I said, and that is don't back off. I mean, the only way you lose your power is if you give it away. Simple as that. When it comes to this, it's the only way you lose your powers if you give it away. And this whole idea of, okay, well, they're behaving now, so we'll change the reviews, that's giving it away.
And I think, honestly, Greg, I think, you hit the nail on the head. And that comment has definitely aged well, because we're kind of seeing the hidden knife, so to speak, by Sony, excuse me, because they gave us what we wanted, sure, but then they turned around and said, by the way, this is what's going to happen now because of it.
Yeah, they're just going about it all a different direction. That's it.
Yep, took a different road.
Yeah.
Same outcome.
Yeah, so I think them trying to make that mandatory linking is coming again. Don't know when. Maybe a few months from now, probably, when people have forgotten about it for the most part. But when it happens again, I hope that the community can come together again, and we'll see how forgiving they are this time. Because this
They'll
time,
draw a new
the
line
people,
in the sand.
Essentially, what happens that the folks that folks that changed their reviews, they forgave. Maybe not Sony, but Arrowhead, because they still want to support Arrowhead. And they don't want that game to be damaged because of this. Unfortunately, it's Arrowhead and Sony are linked. There's no way
Yeah. to affect
To-
one without the other.
Essentially, yes. But this happens again. We'll see how the community reacts, if they can organize again. How they
Well,
might react
how-
if
how
Sony
willing-
tries to pedal back again.
How willing do you think anybody within Arrowhead at this point is going to be to step into that organizer role, seeing what happened to the last guy?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Probably not, but people by now, I guess you could say, know the drill.
if the
and
CEO
YouTubers and Twitch streamers will probably be the one leading that organization, I think.
If the CEO of Arrowhead was really that on the side of the community, he would have taken a stance there and said, "Okay, we'll do some form of reprimand, but we're not going to fire this guy." Of course, that would have meant that he would have had to put his own head on the chopping block and ask Sony if they're willing to let him go, essentially. And more than likely, the answer would have been yes, we're willing to let you go as well.
Yeah, I mean, I get his hands are. There's only so much he can do because.
Well, but
Sony
he chose to not stand up for the community and defend that guy. Chose to, this is just hyperbole, okay? This is my take on this thing, but that's not. This guy decided not to really be a leader, to be a mouthpiece instead, and he talks a good game about all the well, I'm on your side and I'm working for you and we're gonna get this straightened. Bullshit. That's what I say.
Let your mans take the bullet.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right. It's hard to say because we don't know the guy. We don't know what's going through his head and all the situation on his side. But
if he goes and hires that guy back that rallied the community, that would be a good step in the right direction for me. I would look at that and say, okay,
twist.
All right, now I even want to believe you because you are actually taking steps to be a leader in this company and to protect your community.
Yeah, and
hire that guy back. Have him wear the fake mustache. Second name. Bring it back to what we were talking about at the start.
No. Change his Discord to not Spliz.
Exactly. Definitely not this guy.
Definitely not.
Yeah, Infinity. Unfortunate as it is, that is exactly true. It's either your CEOs. Not everybody, but I mean a lot of them, and especially when you get into these larger corporations. I mean, these guys they're doing their job. It's nothing, it's nothing personal. They're paid to do this. Bobby Kotick, same thing. I mean, that guy is paid to do the shit that he does. And this guy at Arrowhead, same thing. He's paid to do the stuff that he does. If there's any reason why they're knocking down $35 million a year, it's exactly that, because they've got to be willing to be a scumbag at the same time that they're willing to, take all the rewards. And their life and their position is going to be, not their life, but I mean that length of service in those positions is going to be short. You don't see a lot of 30-year CEOs. They get in, they do what they got to do, they get their payday for it, and then they get out. And it's like any other job where you basically, and I'm not saying that these guys are actors, but I mean it's like any politician's job. Well, them guys seem to be able to do their thing for life anymore, but acting. I mean, you get in there and you make it while you can make it, and then when it's over, it's over.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, Greg. It's a shame because that's kind of the general consensus of a lot of these CEOs of larger companies. 35 million. What the fuck do you gotta do to earn 35 million a year?
I've never made 35 million a year, but I will put it this way: my perspective on that right now is there is no one that's worth 35 million a year.
No, absolutely fucking not.
Plus,
No.
plus bonuses.
Right,
Well,
I
Plus,
mean-
yeah, plus bonuses.
Honestly, the bonuses for I know at least in Body Conic's case, the
Fucking
bonuses were where
ridiculous.
it's really at. Like
Yeah,
the salary was chump change compared to the bonuses he'd award himself every year.
yeah, he was making hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses, right?
Yeah. So much so that even the board of directors were starting to slowly kind of turn against him. And
Well, if you're gonna
how
do
much
it,
he
do it
was
right, right?
awarding himself. So I don't even know what I would do with that much money.
Yeah, there is a, there's definitely a problem in our economy here in the United States in that regard, that we, but look at what we look at the money we lay out for these people. I mean, basically CEOs now are on the same level as professional athletes, way the hell
More so.
overpaid.
Yeah, more so in some cases.
It's just
Yeah.
it's
And you have
ridiculous.
to cut people.
Well, right. I mean, who pays for that at the end of the day? I mean, it's. And I'm not saying that everything should be smoothed out and balanced across, level the playing field. I'm not saying that, but let's just not be ridiculous with some of these folks. I mean,
Yep.
Like
you know-
CEOs should get paid, a good deal of money for the position that
Right.
they hold and what they do. But there's limits.
right, right.
There's good money,
especially
and then
when
there's stupid money.
Especially
They
when
get
you
paid
turn around and say, okay, we got to lay off these 1,500 people, but this guy here
Yeah.
is getting, he's getting
Yeah.
a raise on
And
top
the
of his
studios-
35
it was
million.
such a hard,
It was like,
a hard decision
To
you know,
make.
It was such
No,
a hard
no,
decision.
no, it
My
wasn't.
heart goes out to all these friends that were let go.
And family. Don't forget
yeah,
family.
friends and family here.
it's a good story. Come on, it's a good story.
Bye, guys.
I'll
Make sure you
escort you out.
Yep, exactly. Make sure you leave your badge with security. Meanwhile, he's going over there counting his $35 million on top of the $100 million bonus that he just got that could have kept that studio afloat for another couple fucking years when they turned out that game. Holy shit! But again, not
Business.
to get too pessimistic.
It
And not
happens.
to get too gloom and doom. But I want to kind of tie up things based off of tonight's episode. It's clear that the industry is leaning out. We've seen it all year. We've seen it towards the end of last year. We're seeing it again this year. These larger companies that have consolidated, they did so because, again, keep in mind, a lot of these acquisitions were years in the making during COVID. And I think that honestly was a catalyst for a lot of the shit that we're seeing now. You had a lot of folks, again, go back to 2020. You had a lot of folks who are at home, nothing to do, money to spend, nowhere to go. They either probably bought a bunch of Amazon shit that they didn't need, or they were playing video games. And these studios boomed because of that. And then you had conglomerates like Microsoft and Amazon and all these other guys swallowing up the little guy to start bolstering and taking advantage of the now mainstream success of the industry. People are venturing back out into the world, not playing games as much, or doing other things, or canceling subscriptions because they're not utilizing them as much, and these companies are stuck holding the bag. I think honestly this goes to show that you gotta think a couple moves ahead, guys. Gotta think a couple moves ahead, because the lockdown wasn't gonna last forever.
I mean, here's the thing about the COVID argument is because yes, things did balloon a little bit, but especially if you talk about like the hiring and layoff process, the pandemic era hiring does not. It barely touches the number of layoffs we've seen since. Like it's
well,
this isn't going back to normal from before the pandemic. This is going beyond that.
True.
It's gone far beyond, honestly. Is that?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that though. There's a whole lot to unpack in that. And it a lot of it comes down to what did we foster in our economy through all of this stuff. And when you literally pump trillions of dollars into the economy, I mean, just dumping money into the economy, what do you expect to happen? And honestly, I mean, just ask yourself that. What do you expect to happen?
Exactly what we're seeing.
It's how do you can't smooth this out. This is we've had ridiculous levels of cash dumped into our economy, actually the world economy, and that all has to drain back out. I mean, it's for us to stabilize the world economy, we have to drain that back out. It's otherwise, how do you do anything with that? And the way it's going, I mean, everyone knew that this as soon as they announced it. I mean, all like the PPP loans, paycheck protection shit.
Yep.
Good. Some companies could have done well with that, like all the companies that they forced to shut down. That would have been good. You know what I mean? That would have been good.
Nice, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
But why?
Use the hell out of.
Why did
Oh,
these?
yeah.
Well, right. Why did these bigger companies need that money, and why were they given it?
Yep.
I understand, but it's just the whole thing was handled very irresponsibly. And what do you expect to have happen? Because these everybody knew what was coming. They knew there was going to be piles and piles of cash pumped into the economy. And so what happened? All these companies geared up to get their share. That's what happened. They geared up to get their share. Like, all this money's coming, so we got to get ready to grab our share of it. Period.
Yep.
And
And smaller companies, not just game studios, but smaller companies in general, got the shit out of the stick. Meanwhile, you have these larger companies just gobbling up pounds and pounds of tons and tons of cash that they didn't need to begin with, because it wasn't like Microsoft or Amazon or any of these other large, conglomerates were hurting for fucking money pre-COVID. It wasn't like they were hurting for money.
the companies that are doing the best out of this right now are the companies that were aiming for stability as they went through this. Yes, gain market share, but let's not be crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want to continue to grow year over year as we normally would, but not run right out there and start grabbing the money. It's like we took this big ball of money and out in the middle of the street somewhere, and we just threw it up in the air, and everybody runs out to grab as much as they possibly can. And what do you do with that? There's no what happens after that? You didn't have to really earn it, and you just followed the flow of everything else that was going on. Well, okay, there's people that are unemployed. We got tons of cash. Let's hire a bunch of people. Let's, you've seen that was happening, paying ridiculous wages. I'm sorry, but we've seen that happen too, and we've seen exactly what that does, and what it has done is drive a lot of companies out of business. Now you look at the interest rate piece that we have going on. You got banks that are collapsing. Why are they collapsing? Well, because they've overextended themselves, and they just don't have, there's nothing left, and nobody there to borrow money, and the people that have borrowed money are struggling to pay the frickin' interest rates. I mean, what do you expect? That's my soapbox for the evening.
Well, here's the thing, Greg, and I appreciate you going into that, even though you felt like it was a little bit long-winded, because that directly affects the industry. Like, we're seeing it, and we're going to continue to see it for the foreseeable future. And again, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but unfortunately, we're going to have to swallow the fact that these closures and these layoffs are going to continue for a while. This is not the end of it. Things are going to continue to, I don't want to say get worse, because I think there's a silver lining in here, but things are going to continue to be a little bleak for a little while. But for me, the silver lining is that a lot of these folks that are getting let go are professionals. They're industry professionals. They're veterans. They know the landscape, and they know what people want. And here's the thing: a lot of these developers are gamers themselves, and they want to continue to create. They want to continue to deliver great product to people. And I have a feeling we're going to see in the coming years a lot of studios pop up, a lot of indie studios, a lot of small studios made up of these veterans who are going to come out with some really good shit. And it may not be, unfortunately, it may not be the continuation of IPs that we wanted, like Dishonored or Hi-Fi Rush or any of the other ones that have been, unfortunately taken from us. But we're going to see some good work come out of it. And I for one, am excited. After this kind of bleak spell, I'm excited to see kind of what's on the horizon for a lot of these studios that are going to pop up, and a lot of the small studios that are out now that are probably going to get an influx of these individuals who have the talent and capability to help propel those games forward. So that's my 2 cents on that.
And their behaviors right now generate opportunity. That's the, I know it's hard to see when you look at how bleak some things look, but it really comes down to the more they want to circle the wagons and stick to just the high-end IPs and the really big games and just the stuff that is absolutely guaranteed to be a winner. Go for it. Do that. Yes, it sucks short term, and there's a lot of pain and some really good studios and people that are hurt by that. But the fact is it opens up a wealth of opportunity for people to step into that space and do what business is about, and that is figuring out what people want and then figuring out how to provide it for them. And that's exactly what we see as the opportunity right now. Let them focus on the big IPs, because people want the new, fresh thing. They want innovation. They want to see these new products. They want the indie games. You're not going to sell hundreds of millions of copies, but you don't need to. You don't need to sell hundreds of millions of copies. Provide, create a good product that's what people want to see, and it's something new, it's something fresh. They don't have to, like the large MMO platforms where you got to deal with all the garbage, like I'll pick on WoW for a moment, known for being a toxic community. I mean, so create something new and fresh and small, and get it out there, and start talking to people about it, and push that, because that's where the opportunity is at right now. Well, unfortunately, games is a little saturated at this point, but don't let that scare you. If you're if you're working on that stuff, we work in that space. But I mean, if you're working in that space, don't be scared. Put it together and do it. Just do it. Nike, man. Anyway, that's sorry.
Just do it.
That was sad. That was sad. I'm not.
What about you, Matt?
Not advocating Nike.
I mean, I'm right there with you. We're going to see a lot of these industry veterans striking out on their own. I mean, when I spoke earlier of Tango, Shinji Mikami, that he's doing that as we speak, striking out on his own, creating his own studio, ready to make what he wants to make. And because a lot of these new studios probably aren't going to have like these large corporate overlords, some may not, probably going to see a lot more creative ideas than you normally see out of the AAA gaming sphere.
Yeah.
So there's the silver lining, I guess, to what's been going on. So there may be a lot of very interesting things on the horizon.
Most of these guys are not. What they're going to push to the side is the lower margin stuff, and that's just because it's lower margin doesn't mean it. That means nothing. You're okay. So you're making less profit on it, but when you're really looking at something, I mean, you got a game that you're selling for $40, and you sell 3 million copies. I mean, if you're
a lot of money.
If you got a team of 5 or 10 people that are making that game, yes, you're going to have some expenditures that are out there. You're going to have some advertising that's out there. But seriously, if you can't make a profit on $80 million, then take everything I just said and forget it, because you are not going to. You're not going to be successful. Okay.
Well, if you can't make a profit off of that, that's ridiculous. Yeah. No, I mean, you're not wrong. Because here's the thing, and that's the thing that is. I mean, we spoke about this when we were sitting there with Twain Martin. How the teams on a lot of these games have gotten grossly too big.
Mhm.
250, 400 people. I think last count, Larian Studios had a team of 400 people. And I'm not trying to pick on them or anything, but that's a huge fucking team of people to do that project. And granted, they did very well. They did exponentially well. But the teams have gotten team size have gotten a little out of hand, and I think that's now become the norm. And what I got from our talk with Twain, both on and off screen, it feels like larger studios, at the very least, are just throwing people and money at the project and not working smarter and harder.
Agree with that.
And that's
It's as I've said before. It seems like there's this attitude where games are just a simple money printing machine where you put in X amount of money, budget,
and an X amount of
get X amount back, and it's like just a simple equation.
Yeah, it's not to one, guys. It's not.
It really is. There's so much more that goes into it. It's not like I'd say there's a point where there are diminishing returns, definitely.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's a creative process based on people's subjective views on what is a good game. There's so much variance to what it could possibly be. It's not just a simple money printing machine.
No, it's not. And again, that's not to disparage any of the studios, because I'm sure the developers are working hard, but it's like it's not them. It's the head shed. Things have to get
don't determine budget here.
Yeah, things got to get reevaluated here, because you can do great work. You can do good work with a small team of skilled individuals, and that's not to say that you have to start out with skilled individuals. I think the people leading your teams need to be skilled, obviously. But and that's another thing, and we're coming towards the end, so we're finishing up with our topics. But invest in your folks, invest in the people who are building your shit, because the more you invest in them, the better they get, and the better your product becomes. But hopefully, the pessimist in me says no. The optimist in me is really fucking hoping that the industry, after this kind of downturn, is going to come back a bit stronger than it is.
It will.
Because we've seen so many creative games come out over the last years. So many good games, so many innovative games in their own way. Hopefully they continue that trend, and hopefully the bigger studios wake up and hey, turn the lights back on upstairs, because they have the budgets and they have the team sizes, even though I think the team sizes are too big and they need to be broken down a little bit. But they've got the infrastructure and the resources to really put out some good stuff and bring us hopefully back to a golden age of just good games, people wanting to make good shit. But we'll see. I guess we'll see as the time goes.
Let's go make some good shit.
Yeah, let's go make some good shit.
Essentially.
But we are coming up to the end of our second hour, and I think it's a good time to do some housekeeping.
So housekeeping for us. We tomorrow night we are doing book 2 of The Wheel of Time, The Great Hunt. I prefer to call it The Hunt for the Horn, and you'll probably find out why tomorrow. But yeah, book 2 of The Wheel of Time.
Hunt for a horn.
That could have something to do with it.
Was that obvious, Matt?
Very, very possibly.
I'm just getting a hunch. There's some subtlety there.
The horny hunt. I like that one even more. Yeah, that might sell. It's a little misleading, but
okay, Greg. I think you know what to title the stream tomorrow.
The horny hunt.
It's a little clickbaity, but you know what? I'm here for it.
we got a stream title right there. Okay.
I think we might draw the wrong crowd for the show, though. I'm not sure about that, but
hey, a viewer's a viewer.
Yeah.
No matter what their kinks are.
Hey,
we
no
don't
judging here.
Yeah, we don't kink shame in this podcast.
So,
Mostly.
so anyway, book 2 of the Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan series. So we'll dive into that tomorrow evening. We're going to be going through and doing all the books as we do this. We're not doing reading or anything like that. It's really just an open discussion about the book. If you would like to join in, you have an additional way to do that by joining our Discord. We will have the Discord chat open. So people will be able to ask live questions or really just share in the conversation, because that's really what we're looking for, is just a roundtable conversation about the book and books, I should say, because yes, we never do very well at staying completely on topic.
We do touch on other books, probably.
We do. That's it's just part of it. So we have that tomorrow night, and then next Thursday we'll be doing the next episode of the BOR.
Episode 6.
And then we have some special planning going on for the Thursday after that. So the 30th, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're working on something exciting. See what happens.
Next Wednesday will be episode 53 of the update log, and we're gonna see what we get up to, what the industry gets up to in the coming days. Again, everything's changing day to day, so it's really hard to pin down any one thing. It's like a revolving door. As evolution's happening all the time. So keep your ear out for that. We'll be posting some juicy tidbits on our Twitter page, and if you want to keep up to date with us more directly, join our Discord, which is links in the chat. That's also how you can join us for tomorrow's episode. I think Greg, you already said that, so I'm just repeating that.
Hey, the more reach that we can get, the more ideas we can gather. Is really what it comes down to. Growing that community piece is really, you get more people to engage, and you just have way more content. All of us have way more content to work with, more thoughts, more minds to drive this thing forward. So.
Yep. But that is actually it for episode 52 of the update log. Again, go out and support these studios, guys. I'm not gonna say not Xbox or anything like that. If you like them, you like them. I'm not gonna hold it against you. But go out and support your studios. Go out and get involved in those communities and make your voices heard, because that's who they make games for. That's who we make games for. We make games for our people to enjoy and to create with. So go out and do that. Go out and enjoy some games. But yeah, that's all I got.
Anything you got, Matt?
No, I think Rob just said a lot of it right there.
I'm still just the horny hunt, man. I tell you, I don't know.
Got
to think on that one.
It's a title.
Stream title. That's a stream title, Greg.
It's
I'm
a
gonna
title.
be very disappointed if tomorrow
It doesn't say the Hornet.
It's not that.
Maybe.
It's definitely a title. Thank you, Infinity Core. So don't worry, if Greg does put it in there, we'll be sure to credit you with the inspiration.
Yeah, definitely sure to credit you with that one. All right, guys. I think we're just going to call it for tonight, and we'll see everybody hopefully tomorrow night. Yeah. Have a good night. Thank you very much for being here this evening. We obviously, it's you guys and gals that keep us able to do this.
Keep this ship going, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very, very much, and we hope to continue to be able to bring you some great